Oh my gosh.
I can't believe you said that on YouTube. Oh my gosh, we are going to get slaughtered.
The flame.
We're going to get slaughtered.
Bring the flame.
Today we're going to talk about the dirty truth.
That's right.
The dirty truth about how to manage your resources when you are long-term boondocking. Stick around to the end because you'll want to see the much debated topic covering where to get rid of your gray water.
That's right. Hey everyone, welcome back to No Ordinary Path. I'm John, this is my beautiful wife Kristen, and speaking of beautiful, we are standing at this gorgeous backdrop here on the Missouri River. We are currently down at the Overton Bottoms area, and the kids are throwing rocks in the background. You'll probably hear some splashes.
Today we're going to cover the three main resources that we look for and that we have to manage when we are long-term boondocking, including our water, our fuel, and the dump. A lot of the public lands are 14-day maximum stays. Some of them can be pushed a little bit, but 14 days officially. So let's talk about how we boondock for 14 days. The first thing is water. What do we do for water?
Water is, it's the most important commodity outside of shelter in and of itself. So we are fortunate that Wendy has 5 tanks. We have a large 43-gallon freshwater tank, we have 2 blacks, and we have 2 grays. To fill those 43 gallons of fresh water, we have a 60-gallon water bladder, portable water bladder that I throw in the back of the truck. We also have 4, 6-gallon water jugs?
Three 6-gallon
water jugs as well.
That's so that I can take care of it if he's at work, because
right.
I don't handle the bladder.
Well, and you could maybe, but it's kind of a risk putting it inside of the van.
The van, yeah. I don't want it to like pop or something inside my van. That would be awful. Where do we find our water sources usually?
Well, there's a lot of different ways to go about doing this. The number one and most important thing is you want to make sure that you're using potable water. If you don't know what that is, basically it means that it's drinkable, it's safe to drink.
You still probably want to put it through a filter.
Yeah. Well, you never quite know exactly what all it might be in, so we do put ours through a filter too. I do use 2 primary websites, freecampsites.net and SaniDumps of all places .com. We'll put the links in the description below.
Yeah.
But basically, these are places that show you where you can dump or where there's campsites. And if you go into those campsite areas, a lot of times they'll also have whether or not they have water available. Sometimes it's potable, sometimes it's just rinse water. Gas stations are another good source for it, both just the ones that do have dump stations, because they'll oftentimes have rinse water. It's not always potable. Make sure you check. If you're not sure, don't use it.
Yeah.
But also, even if they don't have a dump station or free water, you could just ask them, because most of the times they have hoses and stuff like that on the sides. And I've had gas stations say, yeah, it's okay. Just, fill up on the side if you want. It's city water, so it's fine. And I have done that a couple of times. Also, city parks are another one.
Yeah.
And if there's a spigot that's really close by and it's one that you can easily access, then I feel like that's fine to take water.
Also rest areas.
Rest areas are another great spot too.
RV parks are good. You will probably have to pay a small fee. The park we're staying at now, you can fill your tanks for $5, which is pretty cheap. Cheaper than Walmart.
Yeah, well, and usually too, if it's just the fresh water that you're after, a lot of times it's even cheaper than to pay to dump. So a lot of places will charge like $5 or $10 to dump tanks, and then you can also fill up on fresh water then, if that's what you need to do. But if you're just coming in with a water bladder and say, hey, I got a couple bucks, you mind if I just throw these on the counter and hook up to the hose real quick, or fill these jugs real fast? And most of them don't have a huge problem with that. Just ask. Yeah.
And if all else fails, there's always Walmart.
We've done that.
When we stayed in Reno, it was really hard to find potable water where we were camping, and so I would take the water jugs with me every time I went to Walmart. It was just part of my routine.
How much did it cost?
It was 39 cents a gallon, so it costs like $8 to fill all 6 of our water, or all three of our 6-gallon jugs. So it really wasn't that expensive. Should we move on to fuel? What do we need fuel for, first of all? Well,
fuel, so we use 2 types mainly. Obviously, we use propane, and that's the primary heat source for the main furnace, and then it also powers the generator. The generator, we have the Champion 3400 watt dual fuel generator, which is great. I love this thing. I really like the dual fuel because it will run on either the propane or gasoline.
Yeah, so if you run out of one or the other,
which
you're not
has
hooked.
maybe happened once or twice.
Yes.
We found that it has a higher output on gas, like it'll run all the AC and all the things without much problems. On propane, it's much more efficient and will run longer. It also has an econ mode, which I really like, that is just, it drops the output so it's demand only. So it runs at a much quieter, because that's also important, level. It saved our butts here recently in the park when the power went out for a while and I had to pull that generator out. In fact, I don't know if I told you, but we, as soon as the power, right before it came back on, we had a neighbor come over and asked if he could plug like a 110 into it because he didn't have any power or a generator at all.
Yeah,
and his batteries were dead.
Oh.
So it is nice to have them for boondocking, but every once in a while, you might need them in a park too.
Yeah, and if you want the link for that specific generator, you can check out our description below in our boondocking gear section.
Big fan. Gas is pretty obvious. You can find gas stations all over the place, but propane refills are much better than doing tank exchanges. A tank exchange, you can find those all over the place. Walmart's, almost every place will do those. You're gonna pay, close to 20 bucks for one. Propane refill is a lot cheaper and generally you're gonna get a little bit more out of it too. The best place that we found to fill our tanks at are usually like a hardware store or a Tractor Supply. Ace Hardware usually has it for pretty cheap. Tractor Supply has it for pretty cheap. That's where we're filling it up here in Columbia, Missouri. So
sometimes the RV parks charge a premium because it's a convenience fee, but we have been to some parks where it was a very decent price for propane.
Yeah, so it just depends.
Do your research.
Look around, shop for price. Let's get down in the dumps.
Let's get down and dirty.
Oh, look at me. You got something between you.
No, it's time to get dirty.
It's time to talk about dumping.
Yeah, dirty talk.
We've already done a video about how we dump our 5 black tanks. It was one of our first videos. If you'd like to be adventurous and check it out, it's going to be up here. Nevertheless, dumping the blacks, it's kind of unnecessary.
Yeah.
It happens. You have to dump it.
First of all, let's get one thing clear. Never, ever, 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 ever dump your black tanks on the ground.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
That's gross.
Don't do it. So to find a place to dump, we like to use freecampsites.net. You can use our boondocking guide if you want to check that out. We are going to put our boondocking guide in the comments below that we've been working on. Every place that we have personally boondocked at, we are also including where we dumped from that location. Fact is, you got to dump your black tanks and it has to be at a dump station. End of story.
Yeah.
No questions asked.
Like you can extend your time by getting a schwagen like we have. I got my favorite schwagen here. We'll put a link for that as well in the description. It is very handy. We used it a lot in the desert.
Yes, we can go 2 weeks, a solid 2 weeks without dumping our black tanks because we have 2 of them.
Yep.
I know not everybody can do that. We're fortunate. We didn't even know when we bought Wendy that this was going to be a benefit of having all of these tanks.
Yeah, we can space it out.
Yeah, but what about gray water?
The gray water.
Feels like it's kind of a gray area.
Oh,
Ba-dum-bum.
okay. So here's the deal with the gray water. Most people and most places are going to say that you need to dump it and treat it like black water. The fact of the matter is that's not always the truth. We have, in fact, dumped our gray tanks out on the ground. I know. Oh my gosh.
I can't believe you said that on YouTube. Oh my gosh, we are going to get slaughtered.
Flame.
We're going to get slaughtered.
Bring the flame. Come at me, bro. No, it's like this, you guys. You have to know the rules and the regulations for where you're at. When you think about it, there are lots of people out there, and there's Forest Service videos that you can watch, all this stuff where they're washing their dishes in the sink and stuff like that, and they conserve the water as much as you can, and we do the same. Conserve the water as much as possible. But then you take your sink water, you strain all the food particles out of it, and then you take it out there and you dump it in the woods somewhere. It happens all the time. This is what campers do all the time.
And it's a perfectly acceptable practice.
Indeed it is. By the way, if you're wondering about showers do take a ton of water. So if you're trying to conserve water, our #1 tip is to go find a gym. We like to, when we're extendedly boondocking, we will join a gym short term. That way we can go use their shower facilities and not ours, so we can conserve as long as we can without having to dump our tanks. Now, here's the thing.
I know a lot of you are going to say, well, Kristen, it's illegal to do it in such and such and such and such. Probably. There are a lot of places around the country that it is 100% illegal to dump your gray in the ground. We're well aware of that, and we follow the rules when we know about them.
If you're in a national park, it's illegal.
Yes.
Period.
Right.
Across the board.
Here
illegal.
in the Mark Twain National Forest, it is also illegal.
Illegal.
Yes.
Yes.
So that is the time when you're going to want to use your schwagen
Yes.
to cart away your water.
Yep.
However, on BLM property, now it's going to vary. Some BLM lands are going to have their own rules, but in general, it is a generally accepted practice on BLM land. If you're in dispersed camping areas, meaning not in a designated campground, then you can dispose of your gray water, your, what do they call it? Wash water.
Wash water.
Yes. And you're going to find a link that I put down here below. It's come from a website called the Boondocking Bible. I know it's kind of a corny name, but the information is very...
It's a fantastic resource, though.
It is. It's a really great resource. And in that, they go through all of the statutes, and they have pasted the exact verbiage so that you can be sure that we're not telling you lies here. It is an acceptable practice. Now, the gray area of gray water is in what do you consider gray water. It doesn't actually say specifically in the statutes what that consists of. Some people are adamantly say that it's only your shower water and your like sink water from the bathroom, and it does not include your dishwater.
It's not about like filling up, you know, a 40-gallon schwagen and rolling it over, you know, 30 feet away from your rig and dumping all of that at one time. One, it's going to smell. So little bits and pieces at a time. I do know, you know, like in the desert and stuff like that, it gets absorbed a little bit faster and stuff like that. But the biggest point here is we're not telling you that, you know, we encourage you to do something that's kind of questionable. You're going to have to check where you are, check the statutes for that area.
Is it environmentally friendly or safe to do? Well, I think that's kind of up for debate because, as we said before, tent campers are going to dispose of their water by simply dumping out a bucket.
You can do some things to also help with this and make it more environmentally conscious, like use environmentally safe soaps, things like that. Wash, you know, whether it's like dish soap versus body wash versus all those kind of things.
You got to think, like, if you lived out in the country and you washed your car on a driveway in the country, like on a gravel driveway or whatever, all that soap and stuff is going straight into the ground. Also, we used to live in the country up in the mountains, and we were on a septic system. Now, our septic drained into a leach field, meaning that our septic tank, which also included all the black water, was draining straight into the ground. So we're not ever draining our black water, we're only draining gray. So I feel like it's not that much different than that, if it's acceptable in that area.
The most important part of this whole thing is that, yes, you can do it. It's okay to drain your grays out, okay? Only in certain areas. So before you're just willy-nilly about it, make sure that you check first.
Yeah. We have never mentioned this before because we've always been kind of afraid of what people would say or think of us.
Yeah.
But the fact is we don't just leave it open everywhere. We do it responsibly.
And I feel like Real Talk Tuesdays are about bringing the truth, whether or not it's necessarily a good truth or not. I feel like we've done that on our channel a lot.
Yeah.
So
you're welcome.
Yeah.
For the truth.
Come at us.
Yeah, this is how we extend our boondocking. In between our 14-day stints, we go to a dump station and we dump everything and rinse it all out properly. To all of our friends who are out there boondocking in the desert, we envy you.
That's right.
Because last year we were there, and if you want to see some of our boondocking in the desert episodes, check them out up here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we hope that this has been informative for you and that we're not going to get too much hate because
you're really worried about
you.
it. You're really worried about it.
Really worried.
We're not going to get that much. It'll be okay. It'll
Don't
be okay.
hate me.
It'll be
Okay, don't hate me. Next week we're gonna take you with us into single-digit temperatures inside an RV park because we were not crazy enough to boondock in single-digit temperatures. We are crazy, but not that crazy. Even still, we froze. We're gonna show you what we did to mitigate the cold. That was terrible. But anyways, love you.